Welcome to another episode of Breaking the Barriers. I think that should be the thing that I say when we come on from now on. Does that work, or is it too cheesy? That's corny, right?
That's trash.
Beautiful.
That was it was corny. I'll say that it was cool. But again, I'm a dad. I love dad jokes. So, what's up, everybody? I appreciate you for being here with us for another episode of Breaking the Barriers. Wherever you're watching this from, please do me the favor of liking this video and sharing this video out. We got some cool discussions. We don't have as full of a panel today, but I think that's good. I think that this is going to be able for us to really give our points or our opinions about things, and hopefully at the end of this, bridge some gaps, break through some barriers, and show everybody some unity, because that's what's needed right here in this country right now. So we're going to go through and introduce the guests. Mercedes, go ahead. Tell them who you are and what you're doing.
Hi, my name is Mercedes. I am a content creator, I guess, who just believes in unity through conversations led with unconditional love. So that's who I am.
Facts. Suni, who are you? I don't think you need an introduction, but tell them.
I'm Suni, the middle child. If you want to see an apolitical person give an honest, objective opinion with a lot of wisdom, you can follow. Don't follow this name anymore, because I clearly don't have an IG at the moment. So you can watch me here or on my other backup pages, and I'll change it so that people can go ahead and follow.
Bet. Dale.
What to do, y'all? It's your boy Liddell here, man. I'm a real estate developer and private equity financier. My whole thing is I want to infuse wisdom into whether it be a social, economic, or any type of climate. Infuse wisdom to that thing so we can kind of lean and reason together and prescribe the right solution. That's me.
You know what? I love it. I feel like this is going to be a really good show. So I wanted to come in today, right? Everybody is aware of what happened with the Olympics, correct? We all seen the Olympics. We've seen the intros and the shows and all of that good stuff. So this is the question that I got for you. How did it make you feel? What was your thoughts? What are your thoughts about what you witnessed with the Olympics? Who wants to go first? Anybody?
I'll go. Just rip the Band-Aid off, right? It felt like a slap in the face. It felt like the ultimate disrespect. And it felt like, once again, I'm having to swallow my beliefs to accommodate someone else's version of inclusion that doesn't really include me. I'm perceived as hateful while you're on a stage mocking my Lord and Savior. So it was a slap in the face. It felt like the ultimate disrespect.
Okay. What made you feel like that?
I don't think we should be mocking the Last Supper. And I don't think having over-sexualized characters mocking the Last Supper even resembles what that meant. That was Jesus saying, hey, this is our Last Supper. I'm going away and I'm going to become a savior for you. At the end of the day, that's what it signifies. And when you sit on stage and you make a mockery of that, and you don't even, showcase it in the right way, but you add a very sexual element to it, it cheapens the message and it takes away from what that even means to a believer.
Okay. All right. Next, what's your guys' take?
Do you want me to go?
Go ahead, Mercedes.
Go ahead. Ladies first. Go ahead.
Okay, so I personally believe, like, I believe in this thing that we call purposeful division, right? So there's this unique phenomenon that goes on where we only mock the Christian faith, and we don't mock the Muslim faith, we don't mock Hinduism, Buddhism. It's pretty much entirely towards the Christian community. We also have, I mean, it's extremely distasteful. We took a bunch of children and put them on stage with drag queens who are performing overtly sexualized content, but at the same time, I beg the question, is this the Democratic Party or is this purposeful people in the government causing division? So
I like that. Liddell.
I am not surprised. Christ said this is going to happen. So why is everybody else surprised?
True enough.
If I am the enemy, Satan, and I want the same thing that God gets automatic, which is worship, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to defame the image of God himself, the Imago Dei. That's why you have the big trans movement. I'm not surprised that they actually did what they did set to the Last Supper. Why? The father of lies wants attention. So what does he do? He lies to you. Is it sad? It sure is. And also the text says the heart of man is deceitfully wicked. And so surprised at all, because as whenever man gets access to more knowledge, what normally happens is the morality of man takes a downturn spin. If you look at history, whenever that happens, that normally happens. And so for me, I just said, well, look, this is sure proven the scriptures to be true, because the heart of man is deceitfully wicked.
Okay. Well, for me, when I seen it, it raised questions for me. Like I had to do some deep thinking with it, right? Because I argued with myself at first. I'm like, okay, is this just artistic expression, right? Is this somebody just trying to be artistic with this whole thing? And then I'm looking at, because I think back at like Madonna or any artist that you could think of that do the things that they do. Like Doja Cat is one of them right now that promotes some like demonic type stuff, and you've had different artists dress up as like the Virgin Mary and do those kind of things. So I'm like, is this artistic expression? And then I had to rethink it, and I'm like, well, why are they doing it with the Olympics? The Olympics is supposed to be about being the best and showing like these humans that are just fantastic specimens that got different feats of strength and speed and agility and all these different things. Why are they doing this in the Olympics? So then as I'm watching all these different takes, I'm like, okay, so they're obviously promoting the LGBTQ. But then I had to think, how many people agree with this that are a part of the LGBTQ movement? And it instantly, because at first it's easy to get mad and be like, oh, I'm about to just go in on the LGBTQ, right? And I had to stop. I'm like, wait a minute, my neighbors, they don't agree with this. They already done told me their take on it. They're a liberal lesbian couple whom I love to death. I love them. They're the best neighbors I've ever had in my life. And I have conversation with them. And they don't agree with anything that they saw within the Olympics. They thought it was horrible what they did. You know what I'm saying? And then also, I came across Mercedes video. Mercedes has a video that's going crazy right now on Instagram that gives, I should pull it up. Oh, I can't. I got Instagram live right now. If you could pull it up, that'd be great. Mercedes, if you don't mind, I'll share your take on it. But when I seen it, and I'm like, no, this is an attack. This right here is a twofold thing. They want people who are Christians and conservatives to be upset at people who support LGBTQ instead of being upset at the people who are putting this on the TV in the first place. Because the LGBTQ movement does not own media. They're not the ones that can tell you what to put on Nickelodeon or what to put on Fox or what to put. This is just people. These are Americans, right? That have different lifestyles that they live. But the more I started digging into it, I had to look up the numbers. How many people in the United States of America are Christians? Because that's what I felt like it was an attack on. It was an attack on Christianity to get Christians to be upset at gays, lesbians, trans, and all of that. So 65% of America is Christian. I looked up what's the percentage of LGBTQ in America as a whole? 7.1%. Of that 7.1%, only 10% of that 7.1 are trans. But they try to make trans as the face of the LGBTQ movement. You see what I'm saying? So obviously there's an agenda that's put there.
Sure.
What do y'all think that agenda is?
Simple. That agenda is when the scripture says that we wrestle against not flesh and blood, but powers, and I'm paraphrasing, principalities in heavenly places. So what's happening is you're seeing the enemy show his power to influence. So the question I got to ask for those that believe that Christ Jesus is the Lord and Savior, the Lord and Savior and King, what are you doing? Are you cowering like a coward? Or does this galvanize you to begin showing folks the kingdom? Matthew 6:33, seek first the kingdom and its righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. So what are you doing? If you're quiet, you are complicit. If you are not quiet, right, and you begin to say, wait a minute, enough. This right now shows me, Cash, the world is crying out for wisdom. So I want the wise ones speak up. If it's dark, where's the light at? We're the light of the world, right? Christ is the light of the world, and we are his ambassadors. So light of the world, ambassadors for the light of the world. Talk, begin to influence, take dominion. Genesis chapter 1. He gave us dominion. Go take over. It's very simple to me.
So just real quick, to address Deontay's comment, it says it wasn't imitating or mocking the Last Supper. It was celebrating Greek mythology. It was certainly pagan, but not a mockery of Christianity. It was a rendition of Dionysus feasting. That's actually, I understand what you're saying. I understand that mythology, but that's false. They literally came out and had to apologize because the person said, the one that orchestrated the whole thing, that it was an imitation of the Last Supper of Christ purposefully. So he had to come out and make a statement and apologize. So next take, go ahead. Suni or Mercedes, y'all could go, and then we'll let Caleb chime in.
You can go ahead.
Okay, so for me personally, I look at it like this. I try to think really far ahead into the future, and I'm like, what is the plan of the elites? What is the plan of the globalists? And at the end of the end of the day is taking over through division. You can only take over an enormous group of people, if they're fighting each other and not themselves. And I know it sounds cliche, but I just really feel like that's what's going on. So when we continue this further division, right now, the morale for the gay community is absolutely tanking. We have, this extremely polarized, political violence that's been ensuing. The love for thy neighbor is just, it's in the trash at this point. And it's funny. On Instagram, I try to bring more centrist views and talk to people about, hey, we should have loving conversations. And the majority of comments is I will never touch a Democrat. No, I wouldn't dare let a Republican hug me or anything like that. It's just complete hate for one another. And it's done purposefully because, like you said, the LGBT don't own the media. The LGBT don't own the Olympics. What else? Why else would they purposely put this on stage, knowing exactly what it looks like? Someone comes out and says, yeah, this is, mocking the Last Supper, or it's a rendition of their Last Supper. Why would, and especially you bring up a great point, the Olympics, this is a global event made up of so many countries that aren't the West. The majority of the countries there aren't westernized. So why would we do this unless we were trying to cause, not only division within the West, but division globally, and furthering that we hate the West mentality that these other countries already harbor for the West. So I just think it's a globalistic division tactic that we've been watching play out for the past couple of years. And for a long time now. And then it's just going to continue to get worse.
Agreed. Suni?
I think I'm just a little too sensitive on this subject, to be honest. And I think my personal experiences kind of direct my path when dealing with this specific community. I agree that we should be looking at the higher powers. Sure. What's this called? The Gay Straight Alliance. I think it's called GLAAD. They send out directives to media companies to help them, or offer recommendations for them essentially getting on the media and spewing a bunch of LGBTQ nonsense. So no, we shouldn't point the finger specifically at individual gay people, but there is a level of when is enough enough? When does when does the sexuality stop being the identity and let's just fight America first at this point? Because I think it trickles down. We could talk about what they're doing at the top, but what's also happening here at the bottom is what I look at, which is why I personally wouldn't let my foot off of anyone's neck over in that community, because it's deeper than that. America
So-
is transforming right before our very eyes.
So let me ask you this,
Mm.
and I'm gonna pose this question. AJ, Caleb, I want you to chime in on this one. Okay, so I understand your stance, right? But this is my rebuttal to it. Is it more people, because the trans or the LGBTQ community, see, they even almost got me saying the trans movement. That's crazy. The LGBTQ movement, is it 7.1% now where it used to be only 1%? Is it
Mhm.
7.1% now because people are just, okay to just come out now and say what they want to be or what they are? Or is it because of the influence that's being pushed through the media to children? Because Nickelodeon, Disney,
Mhm.
Netflix, all these different places are pushing. They got
Mhm.
the transgender like drag queen reading to the kids on Nickelodeon, and they got all
Yeah.
of this stuff. So is it making them think that this is what they are,
Mhm.
which is essentially growing this movement? Or is it people just deciding like, oh, I'm 7 years old and I think I'm a girl now, or I think I'm a boy now, or I like this person, or I like this person?
No, I don't think children decide that they like this. There's definitely an influence of 100%, whether it's
So
on the
then,
TV or at home.
so
I
then
don't
we
think.
can't blame the people. That was my whole point. So we can't actually the movement of people, right? The movement of people that. So when I think about the LGBTQ, it's crazy. I don't think gay or lesbian anymore or bisexual. I think literally transgender. That's where my mind goes to. And now, because of the stuff that they're doing in California, they trying to add the plus on there for some crazy stuff that none of the people that I know that are gay or lesbian or bi or whatever agree with. They're trying to hijack this movement. But the lesbian, gay, and bi people that I know, again, they disagree with all of it. They disagree with putting this stuff in to schools to try to teach kids about it. They disagree with it being put on kids' television shows. So is the problem for me when I see this in my everyday? I don't blame the people for the status quo of what's going on in the country. I blame the people that are pushing it. AJ, how you feel? What you think?
Blame the people that are pushing it.
As far as like the
No,
media,
I
the elite.
no, they're doing their job. That's what they want. It's who's protecting you as a child is what I'm concerned about. So if you're a good parent, if you're a strong parent, if you're doing your job, you're protecting your kids from this type of propaganda. You can also articulate it to them when they are exposed to it, because they're going to
Yeah.
be exposed to it in this country right now. They're going to be exposed to it, unfortunately. And so it's a matter of who's raising them. What are they instilling in them at home? Because you know what they're going to face in the world. So therefore, you have to set them up with the armor to be able to protect themselves. Unfortunately, kids can't just be kids these days. I had the privilege to be a child a little bit, and many of us have had the privilege, but a lot of kids today don't get that privilege. So it's like the messaging is going to be the messaging. If you know that's what your kids are facing, you have to set your kids up to succeed, or to prevail, or to accomplish, or to get above that in this world and figure out who they are without someone telling them who they are, or marketing who they are, who they think they are. Kids are impressionable. Kids are going to think, one day they're a fish, the next day they're Andre the Giant, So kids are fickle. They change directions every seconds, and adding more messaging in the stuff that they consume it's just literally just another tool of propaganda pushed by people in this country trying to pervert the minds of young people. And that's my opinion.
Caleb,
How y'all doing?
pretty good, brother.
So I kind of bring I'd say the youngest perspective to the panel here. And I definitely think that messaging, obviously, as we know, the media, to AJ's point, is doing its job, and it has been doing its job. I mean, we look at any polarized issue in politics, society in general. The media always has a play in, the polarization of either side. I think that one of my biggest kind of criticisms, especially of people on the right at times, is minimizing the media, of course, for sure has a play, but I think that parents, local leadership, teachers, people who are kind of pivotal in forming and nurturing kids throughout their early life are failing right now. And there's not enough. There are parents who will come out and here and there, like you'll see the videos that'll go viral of somebody confronting people at the school board. But what happens after that? Like somebody gets like 10 minutes up there and is popular, and then, everybody talks about it for a little bit, and then it continues to go away. And it's a endless cycle that keeps going on. And I think that there aren't enough parents out there who are invested in what their children are being taught. A lot of parents don't know what are the assignments that their kids are bringing home. Like, they're not invested. Like, I'll tell you this, like, you can't get some parents to show up to, teacher parent conferences. I mean, that's
right.
a fact.
But here's my thing though, right?
Yeah.
Not to cut you off, brother. Here's my thing. What if some parents are okay with their kids learning these things? So this is where I feel the discussion needs to be had.
Well, Cash, if that's the case, parents that they're okay with teaching your kids this, be okay with the consequences. Count the cost.
So
count the cost.
I don't know. I'm torn in between it because we don't want to overstep, and this is going to lead us into the next segment that we're going to be talking about. What does it mean to be an American? What is it? Why is America great? What are the things that make America great? So I feel like this is a good segue because I know some people religiously, right? I'm religious leaning, disagree with, we'll say, LGBTQ, right? Disagree with it because of their religious texts on all different sides of religion. But then on the side of a person who is an American that, say, is a part of the LGBTQ community, they're more interested in the freedoms for them to have their personal beliefs about, their sexuality or who they want to be with or who they want to marry, the same way that you will have whoever would have the right to practice whatever religion we want to follow. So do we separate all of this and say, you know what? We need to hold the people, if we don't want this taught, right? Like a person that's a Christian, you don't want your kid to learn about Buddhism or Hinduism in their classroom, right? Am I correct in assuming that you don't want your kid to learn about that in the classroom? Okay. In the same sense, we don't want our kids to learn about sexuality or any of that in the classroom. So isn't it fair for us to separate all of that and get behind what it means to be an American, saying, okay, yes, we have the freedom to do whatever these things are, as long as we're not violating our constitutional rights, and we get behind that, but also hold the people accountable that are promoting the things that we disagree with in places that they shouldn't be in.
I mean, when you say a violation of Constitution, the first thing that comes up is the fact that the Constitution was violated in order to give them access to marriage. That was they went over the states. Certain states voted no, certain states voted yes, and Obama said, actually, no, you don't get to decide. This is going to be decided at a federal level, and now it's legal across the board.
So kick it back to the states.
If we're going to talk about not violating the Constitution, and I'm explaining why so many people have this, there's a line drawn in the sand, right? Social engineering is happening via legislation. And when I see someone who's a part of this community, right, you're telling me you're an American, but you're also participating in a law that was decided at the highest of high to violate the Constitution. So can I look at you and say, you're America first? I can't, because you're taking advantage of something that violated the Constitution.
So a little pushback, and I'll let you answer, and then we'll go to Mercedes. Isn't prohibiting somebody to get married, because this is what they do. This is why the federal government steps in. When the person's constitutional rights are violated, then they have to step in and say, yo, you're violating this person's constitutional rights. And shouldn't somebody have the right to be happy, the pursuit of their own happiness? Right?
Sure.
So if you tell this person that they can't get married, isn't that you taking away their freedom as an American?
No, because the sanctity of marriage is just that. The sanctity of marriage. Listen, get together and have a union, get together and have whatever you want. Just don't call it marriage, because marriage is a religious concept. And in the eyes of a Christian, when we read the story of Adam and Eve, and we read what marriage means, and two people coming together, cleaving to each other, leaving their parents, that's what marriage represents to us. So don't call it marriage. Call it whatever you want. Y'all can come together. I can't stop you from coming together, right? But don't violate and then say, well, we're going to call it marriage and we don't care what you think. And if you're going to push your religious beliefs, and then we see all this now where we have these freaking extreme groups.
But as a constitutionalist, do you think that's fair? Because according to the Declaration of Independence, a person being, however they're deciding to be happy, as long as it doesn't violate the Constitution, it cannot be prohibited. So shouldn't people be able to get married to whoever they want? Before you answer, Mercedes, go ahead.
Oh, I mean, I just got I think a unique perspective on this, because me personally, so I was raised on a farm, right? So there was no LGBTQ indoctrination or whatever, right? So I didn't date anyone. I mean, I was just focused on being a kid until I was 18 years old. The key to that was my mother never asked me, even though I pretty much wore boy clothes my whole time on this farm, mostly because I was out there doing work. But my mother never asked me, Mercedes, do you like boys? Mercedes, do you like girls? It was not a question. She didn't care who I liked at all. And as a result, I got the best childhood, and it was extended. Now, I think the biggest problem is honestly the phones. That's a big one. Again, I did not have my first piece of technology until I was 18. Beautiful thing. I was also raised in a school of 13 kids, and that was in a church. So I've read almost every multiple versions of the translation of the Bible: NIV, King James Version, New King James Version, Christian Standard, American Standard, multitudes. Call myself a disciple of Christ, whatever. But I think this idea that I think people don't zoom out enough. I want to let you know they have been coming for your children for a long time, and this is a product of globalistic evil. When I tell you, it didn't just start with the LGBTQ transitioning, whatever. They've primed this for a long time. I don't know for how long now, but 6-year-olds have been allowed to get on synthetic meth, which is Adderall, age 6 and up, simply because they quote unquote have ADHD. ADHD, you put a bunch of kids in a classroom and lock them in there for 8 hours a day in the freaking dark. You know what I mean? My education was simply, and none of the kids had ADHD. Why? I mean, our education was outside, but I mean, they've been medicalizing kids for a long time. Everyone's up in arms about the trans thing, and rightfully so. Children should not be transitioning at all. But this idea that it's brand new and they haven't been coming for your kids for ages now is crazy, because they've been coming for your kids since the Adderall. The phones was a good introduction of coming for your kids. I mean, children don't have any life skills nowadays, and they're glued to their phones to the point of isolating themselves. So it's just one of those things that they've been coming for the kids for a long time. And this is just another part of this long, extraneous plan that's been here for many, many years now.
Yeah, I agree. Who wants to go? Liddell, you want to go?
What was the question again, so I can make sure I understand?
So, I mean, now we're just mutating. The question is mutating.
Okay,
so
just mutating. Yeah. Okay, I agree with the comment concerning it. The goal is to push an LGBTQ agenda. That is it. And going back towards what Sudney's talking about, you do have the freedom to choose what you want to do. I just said be okay with the consequences. There's going to be some consequences on you and your kids, because when it comes to gay marriage, you cannot produce. Science says you can't produce. Literally, if you put a man and woman on an island, they're going to produce a village. If you put two men on an island, they're going to die. If you put two women on an island, they're going to die. So science, I have to bring the Bible into it. Science tells me that's unnatural. But if you want to believe that it is and be in this land of la, which is fine, do what you do. Just be okay with the consequences, because there is a significant cost to it.
So it's not so much as saying that it's natural or unnatural for me, right? For me, like I say, I like to base everything based off of the Constitution and what we enjoy as an American. So what does it mean to be an American? It means that we have certain unalienable rights that are not to be infringed upon. You see what I'm saying? So this is where, like I say, even though personally for me, I don't got a dog in the fight because I'm not getting married to a dude. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't affect me. But it does affect me if they block somebody from wanting to say, do that, because if they can stomp on their constitutional rights, then they can stomp on mine, is my argument. So when do we, like I say, when do we say we draw the line in the sand and we take our religious perspective out of it?
Even in the scriptures, man, God gives you the ability to choose, big dog.
Facts. Well, exactly. That's my whole point.
So even and I ain't gonna go down the religious that whole at all. But what I'm saying is, I agree with you. If you want to choose, do what you want to do. You have the freedom to choose, man. Do what you do. Just be okay with the consequences. The problem with a lot of people when it comes to the LGBTQ agenda, they don't want the consequences. They don't. What do you mean by that?
What consequences are we talking about?
Well, simple. If I give you an example, let's say, for instance, two gay men or women get married, and they have a child. If there's two women in the house and they have a boy or girl, they can't teach them the fullness of being a boy or girl, because if two women actually have a boy, that's a problem. If they have a girl, that's another problem as well, because of the fact that there's functions when it comes to a man and woman. There's function, there's teaching, there's emotions, there's intellect that only a man can teach a man, or a man can teach a little girl, and vice versa when it comes to the mother and the son or daughter. It's that simple. That's scientific. That's scientific. So whenever you remove natural order itself, natural order, there will be a consequence, not based on religion or what I think. Science says that.
Yeah. Okay. So I got a couple questions. So on the procreation argument, my favorite thing about that is 90% of like Christians practice some form of birth control. So like if we're talking about unnatural stunting of procreation, we got that right there. 90%. Okay. The other thing too, though, is that for me, it's like when it comes to, I guess it's straight people have created a problem called kids in the foster care system, and disproportionately gay people adopt those children. So when we want to make this argument of like, oh, so unnatural, but is it natural for children, as the product of straight people to be in the foster care system? Is that natural, or is that of God's will?
Why does it mean that why are they straight?
Not a fair argument.
Well, I know that. I mean, they're straight people's children. They're not gay people's children.
Well, hold on.
Okay.
Because gay people can't have kids.
AJ, go ahead, AJ. Go ahead, AJ. Go ahead, brother. My bad.
Go ahead, AJ.
So we're making it seem like being heterosexual means you are without sin and that you don't make mistakes. So that's the first thing, right? You're going to make mistakes. You're going to sin. You're always going to fall short of the mark. Period. No matter who you are, who you sleep with, and how you sleep with them. Do whatever you want. My issue has never been whoever two consenting adults want to do what you want to do. My issue is when the government got involved in marriage and ruined it for religious people. Marriage should have always stayed with the church and whatever other religion it should have been with, right? The government should have never gotten involved. So it's not about the government cares about you. It's just another way for them to make money, right? Yes. Permits, licenses, taxes, that's all they're doing. It has nothing to do with the people and caring about the people. I've always said, if you are two consenting adults who build a life together, that is your choice. When I get to St. Peter, I got to answer for me. I ain't got to answer for what you did here. So if you want to do that, that's fine, but it should not be called marriage. Yes, you should have all the protections that anyone else has in terms of if you built a life with somebody, you've been with someone 20, 30 years, one person dies and the other person's family can take half your stuff. I don't agree with that. I'm on board 100% with that. And there should be protections in place to protect you from that. Absolutely. But I am not here for calling it marriage. And that's always been my position. But this idea that being heterosexual.
And again, that's fine. Again,
like the idea of marriage predates Christianity. Like it predates Judaism.
So in that predate, was it woman, man, woman, and man?
I'm saying if we want to claim
no,
marriage,
in that predate, was it man, woman, and woman, man and woman?
If we want to claim marriage as a Christian only thing, just know that it wasn't a Christian thing at first.
I also said whatever else you believe. I know I said that.
Wait, so like Hindus,
but I didn't get an answer to my question.
You're basing your grounds of marriage off of the Bible. Does that mean anyone who's not Christian should be able to get married?
Am I speaking Swahili? I know I said what I said,
well,
right?
I said
you should have the rights, right? But if you want to call it marriage, I do not agree with that. I made that very clear.
And that's okay. See, everybody's opinion is respected. I made that
very clear.
Everybody's
if you don't want to call it marriage, that's okay. But it's called marriage. Someone else can call it marriage.
Hold on, let's rein it in. Remember, we attack the issues and not each other. We can have the debate, right? But here's the thing. I know. I'm not saying nobody is. I just don't want it to get there. We're getting spicy right now, which is good.
I like this
not a bad thing. It's good to talk.
I like these questions.
Yes. So here's the question. In America, right? When America was founded and the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence came into existence, was marriage a thing that you had to go in front of the judge for, or the priest, or both? Was marriage defined in America when it became America? Was it defined as only a religious institution, or was it defined as a American thing? Is it in law? That's my question.
Yeah, I don't want to. Caleb was waiting to talk. Go ahead, Caleb.
Go ahead, Caleb.
Yeah. So back when the Constitution was drafted,
my bad.
So this is what if you look at a lot of Supreme Court cases, when justices have to interpret founders' intent, it deals a lot of what at the time, what was the predominant view of the framers. So when you hear concepts of framers' intent, the Constitution was drafted by a population of predominantly Christians. Religion in that context within the colonies and all of that, and eventually when America gained its independence and drafted the Constitution and all of that, it was based off of a Christian mindset. I mean, Judeo-Christian values. So if you look at, you mentioned Cash. You talked about the Constitution earlier. What we saw right in Obergefell when that case was what came out, that was a picture perfect example of judicial activism. Nowhere before that case did the Supreme Court, did the founders, through all the letters, the Federalist Papers, all of the things that we have to look back at to get an inside view of what the founders meant when they created these amendments. Nowhere was there this concept of, hey, same-sex marriage. Yeah, we're going to put this on the same level and call it marriage. Right. The concept of civil unions, right? Common law marriage, stuff like that existed. And in fact, before Obergefell, people who wanted to get married, they had the option to go and form a civil union, and in many states are offered the same level of protections. So if people wanted to argue that, hey, people should be able to go and have a civil union, the founders, and at the time that was never an issue. The problem and what was key in Obergefell was that the couple there wanted to call it marriage, and there was a critical there was a interpretation that had to be done to understand, okay, what was the founders' intent when they did this? The argument is that people are saying, well, and I think Cash, this is why I was kind of laughing earlier when you were mentioning it, the Equal Protection Clause, which is what people cite when they talk about, people are talking about the Declaration of Independence, happiness, pursuit of happiness and everything. That is not what it meant. The founders' intent when when Senator Bingham and Howard worked, the key framers, they did not intend for the Equal Protection Clause to be used as a segue to call same-sex unions marriage. They intended it to equalize at the time to protect the civil rights of African Americans and ensure their equal treatment under the law. I mean,
So
that's
you're right.
You're
correct. Cases. You're correct, right? But here's the thing. So when we read Deontay said same-sex marriage was criminalized in the U.S. until 1962. Now, this is true, and we see where we are today, right?
Yes, same-sex marriage was, yes.
Right, but check this out. Back in the day, you couldn't marry somebody outside of your race. It was also criminal, but because of the way that the Constitution is, this is a fact. It was illegal. They literally, before even America became America, right? They had the lawmakers, the colonial lawmakers, with the anti-miscegenation laws. That is a fact.
You're arguing a concept.
No, I'm not arguing it. I'm just throwing it out there for y'all.
No, but what I'm saying is the conversation was framed around the framers' intent, right? You mentioned constitutionalist values. If you're bringing that up, then you can only focus and curate your argument specifically around that. You can't go and start saying, well, hey, before that, this was something.
Well, we could, because it shows the mutation that happens within America because of our concept, what we consider to be our freedoms, what we consider to be somebody to be equal in this country. And that's why the Constitution is one of the greatest and most dangerous things that was ever drafted up. Sure. Because it allowed for things to be able to get to where they are, because a person can say, hey, it says right here in the Declaration of Independence that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their power from the powers of the governed. All right. So if the people in mass say, you know what, I think I am okay with these people being married in a marriage, and we say that we are a constitutional republic and we have a form of democracy saying that people can go to the ballot and vote on these things. If it is the will of the people, the will of the governed, then how can we say that we think that it should be abolished if we believe in American values?
Cash, though, if that was the case, though, right? Why in Obergefell did they have to take it all the way to the Supreme Court if the argument is that if the people want this, then they're going to go out and make their wishes heard? If the people wanted it, then it would have been codified at the state level. People had the opportunity. There were referendums. There were state level conventions that were created for people to be able to vote on this. And the people overall did not want it, because the concept of marriage, again, if you're looking at framers' intent,
I hear you.
You are completely distorting.
No, I hear you, but think about this. Hear me out. So Black people were the minority and are the minority in this country, correct? So if they were to vote, and every other person who was against Black people having the right to vote, or Black people having the right to marriage, or whatever it was, they would never win a ballot. So they had to kick it up to the Supreme Court in different instances for different people, for different groups, because they would never have a voice on the ballot, because the majority of people at the time, like you're saying, are Christians who believe in the sanctity of marriage to be between a man and a woman.
We're talking specifically, though. Go ahead, Cindy.
I'm sorry.
I don't understand why we're comparing Black to this. That's another thing.
No, I'm only comparing it because we see how things
happens
mutate
all the time, though.
But we're talking about someone having their actual civil liberties being taken from them because they're Black, not because you are coming against something that has been established in this country for many years and you're expecting a complete culture change. What they did was they forced a culture change. It's no different than what they did with segregation. You cannot force people to come together because you deem they should come together.
I agree.
Look at the effects of forced integration nowadays.
I hear you, right? I agree.
Black people are doing so well.
But this is my thing. You guys. All right. If we say that we believe in America, and we say that we want our freedoms to be protected. If the Supreme Court rules in favor of somebody or of somebody's one person's rights are being valued, and they represent 1% of the population of America, and their rights are being violated, and they have to overturn something that has been that way forever. And the reason why I use the whole black thing, because that was the case in a lot of instances with the civil rights movement. That was the case. Okay, it's the exact same thing when it comes to a small population of people having their rights violated.
It's not though. It's not though, Cash. It's not. You just gave a picture perfect example of judicial activism, right? They legislated from the bench, right? So people who go and get upset, I mean, you're saying, okay, hey, well, if the Supreme Court goes and rules this, okay, you're opening up an interesting door, because, you know, we talk about how we're not okay with, you know, the drag queen story hours. We're not okay with these different things. So when these cases inevitably come before the Supreme Court, things that are socially unacceptable, not even just religiously, socially unacceptable in current day society, and we are saying, hey, you know what? We're gonna let this get up to the Supreme Court, and we're gonna allow these justices to make these decisions. You have to. All of the purpose of the Supreme Court was to be an arbiter of truth, but also to ensure that the framers' intent within the Constitution was upheld.
Right.
That at the end of the day, every case, even if we don't agree with it, every case at the end of the day is supposed to be based in interpretation of the Constitution. And the key thing that is missing in Obergefell, right, is a critical misinterpretation of what the Equal Protection Clause was created to do. It was not created for a segue into same-sex
I'm not
marriage.
arguing it. All I'm arguing only thing that I'm arguing is, in this country, if say we go by to the way that the founders' intent was, and we stuck with that, right? Women would never vote. Blacks would still be slaves.
The framers' intent. The Constitution that includes the Equal Protection Clause and all of that stuff into codifying rights for African Americans completely obliterates what you're talking about.
No, if you're saying from the original document that was drafted up, I'm trying to play devil's advocate here, right? The way that it was drafted up, it said that free men had rights. That's it. So slavery would never have ended.
Hey, on July 16th, Cash, you posted some quotes from the founding fathers on whether America was a Christian nation or not. Do you remember that?
Yeah, but that's not even the argument that we're having. The argument that we're having, it's not really an argument. It's just us having the discussion, because this is the argument. When do we set aside our values, or not our values, our religious perspectives, right? Or our political perspectives, and say we're going to stand up for the rights of all Americans and protect everybody's rights as Americans, regardless of what it used to be, because this is where we are. The world that we're living in right now is where we are. I feel like we're spending too much time arguing about the thing that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if somebody wants to be a man or a woman that are of the same sex that want to get married. That's not the argument. The argument should be, why are they pushing an agenda, putting trans people on TV, on display, to change the way that our kids view things, making our kids believe that they have to question whether they're what they're feeling inside at such a young age, when at my age I wasn't questioning any of those things.
Here's my perspective on it, is the generations of the and I'll just put Christians in this example. If you attack Christians, kind of like how they feel they're under attack now, you're taking prayer out of school, you're taking Christianity out of school, you're like, Christians feel under attack every Christmas. This Christmas, it'll be a war on Christmas. You can't say happy holidays. You can't say anything like that. It's so the more there's an attack, quote unquote, attack on a certain demographic of people, you have a rubber band effect that will pretty much promote that demographic, and they will put it in your face. So just as Christians will do, well, you know what, we're going to put the Bible in schools now, in whatever state. We're going to put
missed out on a big portion of this conversation, Corey.
But I'm saying, like, how these groups, how the LGBTQ has been treated throughout the years is why you see so much of it today. Like if there
I
wasn't
disagree.
though, if there wasn't
No, I
that,
disagree with that. I
but
disagree
if
with
there
that.
wasn't that,
Hold on, Corey. I disagree with that, and I'm gonna tell you why. All right, because the LGBTQ movement didn't exist at a time. They were against gay people. So what we see today, I differentiate between lesbian, gay, and bi. I differentiate that between queer and trans and plus.
you
All
know
right, they're
about
not the
the
same
Stonewall
movement.
riots.
We're not the same movement.
I'm sure you know about the Stonewall riots.
Check me out. They're not the same movement. The thing that these people are trying to do over here on the back end of the alphabets are trying, for me, like exactly what Mercedes said, they're trying to come for our kids. And I personally believe that it's the elites, the ones that control media, the ones that control what's put in books and put on bookshelves, the ones that create TV shows, that create music, the ones that are that influence you when you look at your phone and all of that. These people have an agenda, and this is where I wanted to take it to and see what everybody thinks. They have an agenda not only against religious values, and I'll sum that up as a whole, because you got Judaism, Christianity, and the three Abrahamic faiths. It's not only attack against them, but it is an attack against Americans, against American children that could potentially one day defend this country or have to fight for this country. And what they're trying to do is emasculate the men in this country to make our country weaker so they can take over. That's my argument. And that's the only thing that I'm against. I don't necessarily agree with this person's lifestyle that wants to do anything, say like get married or live whatever lifestyle they want to live. I personally think, in my views, I disagree with it, but it's their right. So I will protect their right because we're Americans. Even though I don't never want to be with a guy, I still understand that somebody back in the day probably disagreed with my mother and my father creating me because she was white and he was black. See what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and if
the
somebody
problem is there is no hatred towards the elites, though.
This is what the point is. It's for everybody to come together and say, you know what? I think the problem is up here, these people, right. And it's not the community.
But when you manifest that into the real world, like when you go to a small town and you see somebody who's trans or somebody who's overtly gay in the shopping center, like those people, like these average people out here aren't going to look at it the way you do and say, oh, you know what? I blame the elites. I love this person. This person is a very good person. I am not going to blame this person for being gay or being trans. I'm going to blame the elite. No, it's going to manifest into real world violence against these people. Like that's what it does.
I mean, hey, we got a constitution. They tell you. Go ahead.
That goes back to what Liddell said. You have to accept the consequences that come from this.
Now, what is
you
those
cannot force a culture change, bro. You can't. You cannot force Christians to accept you and then call them bigoted and make fun of them and have stuff like what happened on the stage and expect them to want to respect you. You're laughing in my face. I'm supposed to accept you and everything you come with and say, let me fight next to you, while you are simultaneously making fun of and advocating against my beliefs. So who's really American first? If I'm willing to put my things to the side, which are important to the fiber of my being, because I want the continuity of America, why can't they do it? Why is it always incumbent upon one of us to bend, break, and do anything against our religious beliefs in order to be accommodating? If it's truly coexist, then coexist and understand that there are people that do not like the fact that you exist. Period.
So check it out. Check it out. So we got 6 minutes left in the show, and I'm going to let everybody get their last takes out, right? So here's the thing. How does a person saying that they want to be married, because I know we're upset about the whole Olympics thing. I think everybody's got an opinion about that, right? But how does a person who is gay getting married to the same sex hurt your freedoms in this country? And if they do or if they don't, why do you not, other than religion, think that somebody should be married or not married as an American promoting American freedoms, why is it wrong or why is it right? Do you agree? Do you disagree? And we'll go with AJ first.
Doesn't hurt my freedoms. I made it clear when I spoke earlier. You know, it's you know, I'm gonna do me, you gonna do you. As long as you don't impose, I won't clap back. That's simply how it works for me. You know, it's a very simple way to live. There's gonna always be a counter protest or counter pushback or whatever, you know, the term is. And that's just life. You know, no matter who you are, no matter how good or bad you are, there's always gonna be somebody with an opposing opinion or view. That's it. That's just life. People have the right to build lives with whomever they want, and that's do you, you know. But don't think that I have to give you an inch and you get to just monopolize everything. I don't see any rights that you do not have at this point. So I don't even know why we're still having this argument, but it's evolving into other things, you know, and that's the problem, because all of this at the end of the day is business. This has nothing to do with caring about the people, like I said before, you know.
Agreed.
So once you got the right to marry, however we constitutional or not, that should have been the end of it. Why do we have world pride still? Like, why do we have these things?
I got you.
You know, you have the right.
You got to shorten it up, AJ. My bad, my bro. We got to cut it. Caleb,
My bad.
Caleb, you got 30 seconds, my brother. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, you know, if you want my argument against that, it is a picture perfect example, and it opened the door up for judicial activism. The role of the judiciary was never to sit there and create law. It was always to interpret the law, not to make it. And at the end of the day, when they imposed that nationwide mandate on same-sex marriage, the Supreme Court bypassed the democratic process. They disregarded the will of the people as expressed through their elected representatives. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it undermined the principles of the separation of powers. You know, we can't have these arguments and say that. Yeah,
I'll take it. Corey, 30 seconds.
There have been probably 100 people who are gay who have gotten married since this live started. And I don't see that it's affected anybody. The only way I think it can affect you is if you want it to affect you. The irony of people saying, well, if you don't like our Christian stuff, or if you don't like this, just turn the channel, or just don't tune in or don't watch it. Like you can only, if it affects you, it's because you want it to affect you.
All right. Sony, go ahead. 30.
I'm just going to reiterate what I said.
Go ahead.
You can't force people into changing. You can't expect people to bend and break on their religious views. Congress shall make no law for or against. We leave that part of the Constitution out conveniently. I love that. So if we can't make a law for and you can't make a law against, your best option is to deal with the consequences that are here. I'm not a Christian that's going to try to take your freedoms away. What you're not going to do is piss on me and tell me it's raining.
All right. Liddell.
I would say this here. I would say this here. I can coexist with you and not like your lifestyle. We can reason together, which is fine. The problem that I see when it comes to both sides is this here: is we want our way or no way. If that's the case, I want my way or no way. That leads to dysfunction, conflict, which is unwarranted. So I can coexist with you and not agree with your lifestyle, and that's a precept in the Bible as well. Read it,
yeah,
you'll see it.
100%. Mercedes, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that Jesus loves y'all, and I'll be praying for every single one of y'all.
I know that's right. My final thing is this, man. At first, let me ask the question to everybody here. We all love each other?
For sure.
We all love each other. All right. That's at the end of the day, that's all that matters. We all love each other. As for Cash, I'm gonna tell you like this, man. Even if I disagree with some of the things that people say when they stand on the street corner and they dress in their robes, or they got the triple Ks, and you got the Hebrew Israelites, or you got gay people getting married, or you're a practicing Christian or Muslim or Jew, whatever the case is. your rights underneath, as far as law is concerned right now, you have those rights and nobody should infringe upon them. And as long as you love America and you don't care about my personal beliefs, as long as they're not breaking the Constitution and will protect my freedoms the same way that I will protect yours, then we are all good. And, you know, all the best to you. And just like Mercedes said, I'll be praying for you regardless. All right. Until then, I'm gonna just keep on trying to be the American of what, or the example of what a good American should be. And I challenge everybody else to do the same. I love you guys, and I appreciate the panel for being here with me today. Until next time, thank you for being with us on Breaking the Barriers. Like the video and share it out for me. God bless and peace out.